Hey y'all! Well, it's time for round 2 on the EAR 834 Phono stage build. And this time we're going to be populating the capacitors and all the other solid state stuff on it, the diodes and all that. And then, trying to figure out how to make it work with the shorter standoffs that we're going to be using this time. And I think it's going to make it a lot easier when you want to swap tubes than what I did in the past without any downsides. And I think it's just going to be a really cool looking preamp this time. The other ones have worked great. Everyone I've built one for has just gone, holy crap, these things sound good. And they really do. And I see online people getting super complicated with the grounding and putting the power supply boards in another box with 3-foot cables and stuff. And guys, I'm just not having the problems with noise and hum like these other folks seem to. I mean, yeah, if you hook it up and turn the volume up to 10 with no music playing, you're going to hear something. But at normal listening volumes, they're silent. And there's just no point in super overcomplicating these things like I've seen other folks doing. So I hope this is something that some of y'all are excited about. I know I did a video on this before, and I'm probably going to point back to that video for the fab work. I'm not sure I'm going to show on camera, drilling all the holes and stuff and all that, because I did that on the past video and nothing's changed. I may show you the new way that I'm doing the IEC sockets. I've learned from, experience that the way I was doing it was a pain. That was not the right way to do it. So I'll show you the new way I'm doing that, but the rest of it's all going to be the same. There may be a few little tweaks that I'm doing for this specific build, and we'll show those. But let's get back to building the board. Okay, so we got our caps all ready, and we're going to start off with these 2200 UF 12 volts, and these are actually 16 volt, so we went just a little over just to be sure. And you want to make sure that you put them in the right way. See, the positive goes there, the negative has got the stripe, and that's the negative there, this ground bus thing here. So those three are going to sit right in there, just like that. And what I usually do is start off with the shortest caps and work my way up to the taller ones. Do that deal. Like that. And get these three guys soldered in. And we've got a ton of these 22 UF 400 volt caps. And soldering these caps, I try not to spend any more time with the iron on the lead than I have to. Obviously you want to get a good, nice, clean solder joint, but you also don't want to cook the inside of the capacitor, leaving the soldering iron on it any longer than you have to. Which means keeping the tip clean and having a fairly hot iron so you can get in, solder, and get out. So there's our 2200 UF. These are the filter caps for the heater supply. Double check, got them all in the right place, they're all nice and even. The next thing we've got is, let's go ahead and solder in all these 22 UF caps. Now on here, the markings are on the other side. You can see the positive is in this direction, and the negative is going to go towards this part of the board. And you can actually put it either like this or like that. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and use these two holes. And again, just look at the writing on them. Make sure you're putting the right caps in the right spot. That's it for those. Like there's only 3 of those. There. Like that. Get these soldered in place. Put my fan back on. Like that. Okay. Then we do have this. It's a 10 UF 350 volt because right here in this corner with the positive in this direction. So let's solder this guy in. Okay, so then we'll put these 6 caps in place around here, and I do solder the audio caps, the coupling caps, and then these 2 caps here on the underside of the board. So that gives us a little separation between those and the actual resistors and stuff. And again, these are the same way. You could put them right there, but I'm going to put them in those 2 holes. And then you hold them up tight against the board and bend the leads over. Yeah. Got the 3 on the other side to put in. Again, double check your negatives are going in the right direction on all our caps so far. And then get these last 3 in place. And obviously you want to make sure that you don't bridge any of these traces when you're soldering. With this board, things are pretty spaced far apart. You have to be pretty klutzy with your soldering to bridge across any of the traces on these. Okay, and the last, so we have these two 100 UF caps that go here. Now I did make a little error when I was ordering parts. These 22 UF caps are short enough where they'll work with these stands that I want to use. I'm putting in a little bit shorter ones this time because I want to get the tubes to stick up a little more than they have on my other builds. And you know, that gives me a little distance between this top of this cap and the top of the chassis. As you can see, these 100 UFs I got, they're the exact same length as these spacers. And so it would jam the top of this cap up against the top of the chassis. There's a possibility that I could put them on the underside of the board, but I'd rather not do that. I'm going to look through my capacitors and see if I got some 100 UFs that are shorter than these. So let me go see if I got some of those. I'll be right back. Well, I looked through my supply capacitors and I couldn't find anything that would fit on the top side and be able to fit in that reduced space that we're trying to build this one as. So I think I'm going to put them on the underside up against the board like this. So I'm going to take some of my contact cement, glue these things down to the board, and then solder these guys in place. And go this route. And that'll work just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and tack it from this side. I'm pretty sure before I picked the spacer length based on these longer capacitors. And this time I want to do it just a little bit different. So we're having to get a little creative here. And actually those soldered rather well. Go ahead and get a little extra there. And that looks good. And actually that'll give us a little extra room for the heatsink. Probably can put a little larger heatsink on this transistor now, and the heat from this transistor won't be getting up against those capacitors, so might be a good thing this worked out like it did. So that's pretty much all our capacitors. We have this 100 UF 10 volt. Let's go ahead and put those in too. We're using some of the Nikon Muse caps. They're audio versions. Since these are cathode bypass capacitors, we want to be using some nice capacitors that are made for audio use. And again, just note your, actually we're going to put these on the underside. So we want the outboards going like that. Come in here and solder these guys up. And now you see why I wanted to mark the chassis before I loaded the board up, because putting these capacitors on the underside, then you couldn't put the board up against the chassis to mark the holes. Okay. So that should take care of all of our electrolytic caps. Now all we have left is the mica caps that are part of the RIAA filtering. There we go, see? That looks fine. It looks sporty. And here's our little mica caps. Some 330 PFs and some 110 PFs. And again, the board comes with some cheap little ceramic caps, but like we found out in that little bear preamp, using mica caps sounds much better. And these are 1% value mica caps to ensure that we get the right RIAA equalization. Okay, double check them with your magnifier. And I'm going to put them in these center position. There's 3 spots here for the 110. Not sure why. I guess some of the cheaper caps may not come in a 110 PF, and so you have to stack them up to get the right value. But these mica caps come in 110 PF, so you don't have to do that. Again, they look the same, so make sure you look at the writing on them and you're putting them in the right place, because that would be a disaster sonically to put these in the wrong place. So 330s go down here on this end, and the 110s go in the front position. And then we'll come in here and solder these guys in place. And we are getting close to being done. Really all we have left is our coupling capacitors. And absolutely want to solder them in last. Make sure when you're soldering that you don't like lay your soldering iron up against other parts that are already soldered in. It's real easy to do that. Okay, so all we have left is our coupling caps. So if you look at the board here, it says you can use between a 0.1 UF and a 0.15. I use a 0.15 just to ensure that we don't have any low frequency roll off, and to give the amp as good a chance to have the really nice bass response that I've gotten out of these, and one reason I love them so much. So, I don't know what I'm thinking about there. We're going to put this on the underside, in that position right there. And you want to put them in that direction, with the lettering going that way. And I like putting them in with the lettering up too, so people can read the value. And since this is probably going to be one for sale, people can see that it actually does have Mundorf coupling caps in it. And you could solder these from either side, but and I do stand these up off the board a good bit. Let me see if I got these even, just to keep them away from any potential noise. And we have plenty of room on the underside of this board for them to stand up like this. And again, try not to put your iron up against the side of these things and roast them. That's the voice of experience there saying that. I did that one time, and it was on one of my own personal amps. It didn't seem to really hurt anything, but it bothered me. I bought these nice capacitors, then roasted the corner of one of them. Okay, we have these two little guys here, and I'm pretty sure they go across there, but let me look at the other side of the board. Yep. Because we have this capacitor here, and I do need to look at which way those are installed. I can't remember which way the signal path is going. So let me go look at that and I'll be right back. Okay, so they go in this direction. The writing goes from the outside to the inside. So you're going to bend these over. Set it like that to get it away from this other capacitor a little bit. The two little .01 UF caps. Let's come over here and trim these leads off. And then you can see this is a 1 UF cap goes there. And that's what these big guys are. Whoop. Put these in the right direction. That. And like I said, let me stick a little piece of cardboard between there. That. I know it doesn't really matter, but try to put them in the same holes just so we got some symmetry there, and it looks like we were at least trying to care what it looks like. And there we go. And you can see we kind of stood them up like that to give us a little bit of room there. And there we go. Zoom out here and show you what the finished board looks like. And there's the bottom of it. And here's the top of it. Trim off these. And the only thing we have left and I need to find the heatsink for it, is to put this little transistor in here and then solder in the LED, and we're going to put the resistor for it on the underside in case we want to play with the brightness, you know, have it stood up a little bit and solder it in place so that it's easy to get to that resistor to change that if we want to adjust the brightness of the power LED. But there's the vast majority of this board done. I think it looks really awesome, and this is like a great place to wrap up this video. Well, as you can see, we're rolling right along. We got the board all populated, and I did go ahead off camera and install the transistor, and I was able to put this nice big heatsink on it that I normally wouldn't have if I'd had the capacitors mounted up here in the top. So that turned out to be a blessing, that I was able to use this really nice big heatsink by putting the capacitors on the bottom like that. I will say that I did discover you want to install this transistor before you install this cap, because you have to solder underneath there. So I had to, luckily the glue hadn't really set yet, so I had to kind of pull up the cap, clean that off with some acetone, and then solder the transistor in, snip the leads off, and glue the capacitor back down. So just a little heads up on that. Don't glue these caps down or even install these until you put this transistor in, and then you can install the heat sink last. Anyway, I think this is rolling right along, and this is going to be another really clean build of this. It's pretty simple. Again, performs so much better than the ones that you buy because you're hand selecting the parts. Even though it's a little time consuming, it really pays off in the end. So anyway, hope you're enjoying this content. If you are, please subscribe. Please like the video. Thanks to all you Patreon folks, and also folks that made donations at my website. If you're finding this information helpful and saving you money or instructionally, appreciate the donation on that. And until the next video, have a nice day.